Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining Jeff and I today. As you can see, we're going to talk a little bit about Bitcoin. So, hi, Jeff. How are you?
Good, Sunny. How are you?
Not too bad. Long weekend. Happy Thanksgiving. Post Thanksgiving.
Yep,
Did you have some
absolutely.
turkey?
Uh-huh. And I had lots of time to think about cryptocurrency and with specific focus on Bitcoin because we've received a couple of questions about it from our clients lately. So even though we've written and talked about this before, I thought we'd give a refresher, so to speak.
Yeah. So it looked like Bitcoin. I mean, it is up, down, all over the place. It's really one of those things that's very hard to track. And they did seem to have a correlation coming out of the pandemic with NASDAQ. And then recently compared to digital gold, um, but not anymore. I guess the correlation is no longer. It's taken off doing its own thing. And there's some talk that I guess the China tariffs could be the culprit for that. So what are your thoughts?
Well, my thoughts are it seems to trade in a different direction for a different reason every week. I don't know when this thing's going to go up, go down. If I see a headline come out at 3 o'clock in the morning that China has done X, Y, or Z, or has reported this economic figure, I can predict how oil will move, how copper will move. But with Bitcoin, it just seems to trade based on what these speculators who own it are thinking.
Yeah,
And so I can't predict where it's going based on headlines already out. And I also don't even know what it does. And I'm not embarrassed to say that because um, lots of people
yeah,
say that. It does have several major use cases, which is that if you're trying to perpetrate a fraud, launder money, traffic drugs, that's what you use this asset for, if you can call it an asset. So I can't predict the price movement. Other than criminal activity, I don't really see its use case. But I'm just one person, and we put in our blog a good quote from Jamie Dimon, didn't we?
we did. Yeah. Uh, I'll go ahead. I'll read part of it for just a minute. Okay. Blockchain is real. It's technology. Cryptocurrencies have two types. There's a cryptocurrency that might actually do something. Think of it as having an embedded spot contract, and we can use it to buy and sell real estate and move data. That may have value. Tokenizing things you do, you do something with. And then there's crypto that does nothing. I call it the pet rock. The Bitcoin or something like that. There are use cases, like you mentioned, fraud, anti-money laundering, tax avoidance, sex trafficking. Those are real use cases, and you see it being used for 50 to 100 billion a year for that. That is the end use case. Everything else is people trading it amongst themselves speculating. So, I mean, that
Yeah,
came out what, a year ago. Uh,
yeah, and in that same video, he goes on to say, so I wouldn't suggest buying it, but it's a free country. Theirs being different from ours, but Canada is also a free country. So look, if you like Bitcoin, you should, and you see a good reason to own it. You should own it because that's what makes a market. There are buyers and sellers of everything. But I think the point we should make is that if you do see a good reason to own it, just don't make it your whole portfolio. Just make it a piece of it. And so and that applies to anything you should own. For our clients, we have about 2 dozen stocks across multiple sectors. So you're diversified. And I mentioned in the blog, every year it's always the same. You have a couple stocks that do way better than you thought they would. There's a handful that, perform with the market, and there's always one or two that are really bad. You don't even want to look at them. And so that's why you want to diversify. But imagine if all your money is in Bitcoin and it's that one stock you don't want to look at or that one security you
mhm,
don't want to look at.
mhm.
So I just think it's wise to say, come up with 25 ideas. If Bitcoin's one of them, leave it in there. But don't
Hmm.
make it the full 100%. Just make it one of 25 different ideas. And that's
Great
really why I
advice.
wanted to write. That's why I wanted to write this blog because we've already said we don't really see the use case. But I just think that the diversification argument should be made because when I
Hmm.
see commentators come on CNBC or other stations that are big bulls on cryptocurrency, I can tell that's all they own, and they're not diversified. And so, Bitcoin's down about 10% in the last week, and you
Mm.
mentioned it at the beginning. Something I think it was threats of tariffs on China, but then because these bets are leveraged, I guess there were the margin calls. But anyways, it's something different every week, isn't it?
Yeah,
So
sure is. Okay.
diversify.
Diversify. All right. On that note, talk to you soon.
You too.